Hey guys, how's it going? Okay, so I'm in a weird situation here. I'm at the park right now, and I'm having car troubles. My car has been driving good. I mean, I haven't had any issues with it. Not today, not for the last couple of weeks. Not for the last couple of months. It's been good for a while. All right, last time I changed my battery was maybe like 6 months ago. Changed my alternator a year and a half ago. Ever since then, no issues at all. No issues at all. I was comfortable driving this, a long to places that's like far away. This car has been pretty much solid for me up until today. So basically, I'm at the park. I parked my car at the park and jogged around for about 2 hours, walked around, came back and tried to start it, and nothing. Like nothing. Like when I get into the car, everything works the same it's supposed to work. All the rings and sounds and stuff like that. The dash, all the lights are good. Radio turned on immediately. Blower motor works. Only problem is it won't crank. It won't crank at all. Now I've been trying to figure this out. Trying to crank it up like 15 different times. Try to crank it up, but nothing happens. So I've heard about these situations, and that could be caused by a brake switch. If you guys didn't know, the brake switch is it pretty much is it's a part that turns the brake lights on when you press on the brake pedal. Also, if you guys have, So basically, I was like, maybe it's the brake switch. So I went to the back. I actually did ask somebody to check my brake switch, and I actually did take it out to put it back in. And then I did ask somebody to check out my brakes to see if they were good, and the brake lights came on. So the brake lights came on. So it wasn't the brake switch. So I was thinking to myself, okay, maybe it's the battery. Battery is fairly brand new. Maybe it could still be the battery. It's brand new, but it could still be the battery. So I was thinking to myself, let's turn the headlights on. And the headlights were pretty bright. But this is daytime, so it's kind of hard to tell. But the brake lights were fine. All right, so, but I wasn't having issues with any of the power in the car. The brake lights were fine. So I pretty much told myself, I mean, it could still. Oh man, I'm going off track right now. This situation is actually frustrating me. What was I talking about? Brake lights. The battery was good, I thought, and I opened up the hood. I was looking at the battery, trying to see if there was anything that could cause it not to put out the amount of power needed to start the car. I noticed that there was some corrosion. It was like a bluish, whitish corrosion around the terminal, and it wasn't a lot, but just to be sure, my terminals were kind of loose, and I kind of thought that could have been the problem too, but it wasn't loose enough where something like that would have caused like a disconnect. So anyway, I was able to wiggle it a couple of times, wiggle it off, and I had a can of Coke in my car that I was going to use after this whole entire, after my exercise, but I actually poured Coca-Cola, a can of Coke on the terminals just to clean them up. if you guys don't know about that, it'll fizz up the corrosion or whatever, which it did. Most of it was off. I took some paper towels, cleaned it off, and they were pretty clean. It wasn't like it was covered in corrosion. So I popped it back on the battery, and I tried to turn it back on a couple of times, and it did the same thing. Nothing happened. So basically, at that point, I was thinking to myself, if anything, it's not the battery right now. So it's not an issue with the connections to the battery. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask somebody to give me a jump. I did actually have somebody around, which a guy asked me whether I needed any help because I had my hood up, and asked for a jump. And jumped it. Nothing happened. Okay, so basically the first time nothing happened. So I waited about not 5 minutes. I waited a couple of minutes, for it to charge the battery, just in case the battery was pretty low, and then tried to turn it on, and nothing happened. At that point, I knew it wasn't the battery at that point, and on top of that, I could actually rule out the alternator, which I ruled out anyway because the car didn't die out while it was on, which happens most of the time when you have alternator issues. And the reason why I ruled out the alternator is if the alternator was bad and it ran the battery down, and your battery was dead and you can't start your car, a rare occasion that would happen the way, where your car would be, your car would die out at the time parking. But as soon as you get a jumper cable on there, if it was a bad alternator, you would be able to start the car. But once you take the cables off, your car would die out because the alternator was bad. It wouldn't be charging it. But that wasn't the situation that occurred. Fine. All right. I could rule out a couple of things. I could rule out the battery. I could rule out the alternator. Now, here's the thing about it. I was looking at the negative, and I've known that a negative wire that's grounded or broken off or could actually cause a bad grounding situation where it won't get enough juice to start the car. But I was looking around at following the negative line from the battery to normally. The negative line is grounded to the car, and I saw that it wasn't, there was no corrosion. It was grounded good. It wasn't cut. So I was like, okay, it's not the ground wire. It's not the ground wire. Rule that out. It's not the battery. I could rule that out. It's not the alternator. I could rule that out. So basically, I could rule all those things out at this point. Now, here's the thing about it. Every time I tried to start the car up, it would give me a click. There was like a faint click. Every time I tried to start the car, there would be a faint click. It was like a click. So I was thinking to myself, let's check out the fuse box. So I took the cover off the fuse box. I was looking at the fuses, trying to see if there's any kind of issues with, any kind of burnt issue with any of the fuses. Now, I didn't have a fuse tester with me, so I really, it was really hard to tell which fuse is burnt and which is not, unless you actually went and took each fuse out and then looked at it. And some of these fuses are pretty small. See if there's any kind of burns in there. Now, I didn't have a fuse tester with me. I didn't do that. The fuses look fine to me. But here's the thing about it. Here's another thing that came across my mind. I thought it could have been maybe like the fuel line or the fuel pump. But I could pretty much rule the fuel pump out because just because there's no cranking. So if it was the fuel pump that was the problem, the car would at least crank up. Now, the fact that there's no cranking, I could just rule out the a fuel issue. It's either so. I was looking at the relays. see if it was the relays. And I don't think it's the relay. I ruled out the relay because I was hearing a click. Now, and that click was probably coming from the starter relay. For the most part, when you turn it on, power goes from the battery to the relay and then to the starter. So it's because I was hearing a click. Now, I didn't have somebody outside. Normally, you could actually feel the starter relay clicking when you click on it. Now, I'm not 100% sure that it wasn't the starter relay that was causing that clicking noise, but I'm pretty sure. Okay, now if I had somebody with me to just be out there and you know, listen for it, you know, and put a finger on the relay, normally it would, you know, you would actually feel a certain vibration, a clicking vibration on the relay when you try to start it. But here's the thing, I didn't have somebody with me, but I did hear a click each time, so I'm going to rule out the relay. So basically, we're ruling all that stuff out. I'm ruling the relay out. I'm ruling the battery, the alternator, the ground wire. If you guys are in this situation, you guys need to troubleshoot this situation. Obviously, you guys are going to just keep on ruling things out until you guys get to what the most probable issue is with your no start situation. But in this case, I could rule all that stuff out. Now, as far as the fuse is concerned, here's the thing. I didn't have a fuse tester, so I couldn't test out each and every one of these fuses. So I was thinking to myself, okay, the situations that I've had previously where there were fuse issues, I will say that there were two times where I had fuses cause my car not to start. Now, it wasn't on this car, it was on previous vehicles that I've had before. So one of those situations was, I believe it was a Honda that I had, where there was a main fuse that connected the battery cable to the fuse box. Now, Honda likes to have these main fuses. I think Nissan used to like to have these main fuses. So basically, that situation was like this, all right? There was nothing working in the car. There was no electricity going to any portion of the car, all right? The clock, the car's radio didn't work, the clock didn't work. There was no lights, there was no sounds, the alarm didn't work, power, nothing in the car worked. It was as if somebody unplugged the battery from the car. All right, so in that situation, I was looking at it. You know, it wasn't 100% obvious what the problem was, but after putting two screwdrivers and connecting the metal part of the screwdriver together, the car started. So at that point, I knew that it was the main fuse that was the issue. But in this situation, this is not the case, because everything in this vehicle, the electricity works. It's getting full power to everything. I have no issues with any other thing that's not working at all. Okay, so it's not that fuse issue that's the problem. I could rule that out. Now, the other fuse issue that I had that caused my vehicle not to work was a blown fuse, and the blown fuse was probably a fuse to the fuel pump. It was probably a fuse to the ECM, the car's computer PCM. All right, that situation, I was able to get the car to crank. I was able to get the car to crank, but with that situation, I wasn't able to get it to turn over. All right, and whatever fuse that was, it wasn't either getting gas so that it turned over, but the starter was cranking up, not a problem. It just wasn't able to turn over. I heard every time you crank it, it would crank, but you would just not be able to turn the car over. Obviously, this is not the same situation. Obviously, it's not the same situation because I can't get a crank out of this car at all. There is no cranking at all. There's no slow crank. This car was not trying to crank at all. No cranking sound, just a click. Nothing coming from the engine as far as noise is concerned. So I could pretty much rule out those two scenarios as far as the fuses were concerned. Now, okay, so I can rule all that stuff out pretty much. All right, not 100% on the fuses and relays because I don't have anything to test it, but I can rule all that stuff out. All I'm left with this situation is just a couple of things. One of those things would be maybe the key fob. The key fob might be keeping the car from starting, maybe a security issue or something like that. Now, I did change out the battery to my key fob couple months ago. I did change out the battery because I was having a hard time getting it to unlock from a close distance. I'd have to get it really close up. But in those instances, it didn't actually cause my car not to start. So I'm ruling that out, considering the battery is no longer, it's pretty much a brand new battery on my remote. So what I'm pretty much left with in this situation is the starter. Now, the starter on this car, I bought this car used. It's never been changed before. And now, here's the thing with it. I didn't have any kind of symptoms of this situation as far as the starter is concerned. It wasn't like I had this situation a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, etc., and then all of a sudden, it got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. But unfortunately, I'm thinking at this point, after ruling all those things out, I'm thinking it could probably be the starter that's causing this issue. And and it's not as an easy fix as all the other things that I've ruled out so far. But at this point, I'm not going to be able to get the car to start. Now, what I could do is, I was thinking maybe I could bump the starter, maybe take like a crowbar or something like that, a long crowbar, and start hitting it and try to start it. I haven't tried that because I don't actually have anything. I was looking around for a stick or something like that. Couldn't find a stick around the park that I could actually use for that purpose. So basically, I am stuck here in the park waiting for AAA to have to give me a tow back home so that I can sort this situation out and figure out what the problem is. But if you guys are still looking for a fix to your problem, just hold on. All right, I'm gonna once I get this, once this tow truck gets here and I get home, I'm gonna work on it, see if I could definitively figure out what the situation is. All right, guys, just stay with me. I'm gonna give you guys a resolution to this problem, tell you guys what the all right, guys. So basically, it took 2 hours for me to get a tow truck to, for them to get a tow truck to my car, and had my car towed back home. At that point, I went through all the things that I've ruled out, just to double up on, just to make sure that everything that was ruled out was not the cause of the problem, of no start problem. And I can verify through testing and everything that everything that I ruled out was not the cause of the no start issue. All right, which pretty much left me with a starter problem pretty much. Now, I couldn't confirm it until I took everything off, which I did. Put a cable from the battery directly to the starter, and nothing. It did not do a single thing. Now, the connections were rusty, but clean it off, put it put the cable from the battery to the solenoid of the starter, and it still didn't work. So at that point, I confirmed that it was a starter that was causing the no start. Went to AutoZone, took it to AutoZone, and they got, I pretty much got a rebuilt, remanufactured starter, because a brand new one would have costed me twice as much. I didn't want to do that. Didn't want to spend that much money on it. So I got the remanufactured starter, popped it in, turned on, and it worked. It turned on, it worked. You know, started my car up a couple of times. It turned on, it worked. So cranked up without a problem. So it turned out to be the starter itself. All right, guys. So if you guys are still with me, here's the thing. All right, 90% of what I went through, if you guys are having this similar situation of a no crank, no start situation, I'm pretty sure that you guys could pretty much rule out most of that stuff to get to the main cause of your starter issue. All right. Now, if you guys went through everything and you guys are still having the same issue, I'm pretty sure it's your computer that's causing it. But that's a really big step to take as far as troubleshooting is concerned, about actually looking at the car. But if this video has helped you guys out in any way, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Please, if you guys have any comments at all about this video, please leave your comment in the comment section. All right, guys? Take care.